We're live. Hello, everyone. My name is Sohan, and welcome to this after party. This is the after party after Dr. Werner Vogels Keynote at reInvent. I'm so glad you could join us. We're joined by 7 amazing people and Martijn, who is doing things backstage. So we'll do a quick round of introductions because there might be some newer faces right now. Angelo, why don't you tell us about yourself? Oh.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. I'm Angelo. I'm originally from Italy, but moved here in the Netherlands at least 2 years ago. I'm a cloud engineer at Backbase and very happy to be part of this community.
Nice. Stijn, why don't you go next?
Stijn Huizinga. I'm a cloud consultant at Oblivion Cloud Control for almost 6 years now. I'm born in the Netherlands, working with our customers throughout the Netherlands to get the best out of the AWS platform.
Nice. All right, Ricardo, you're up next.
Yes, my name is Ricardo Kuzner. I'm a cloud engineer in the Cloud Center of Excellence at PostNL in the Netherlands. So I've been part of the AWS community for some years now, and I'm excited to be part of this group as well.
Mm-hmm. Before we go on, Dachis, you have to tell me. I moved here less than a year ago. Tell me a bit about the location that Werner shot his keynote in. I've passed by that on the way to Haarlem, but I don't know much about it. So if anyone can tell me a bit about that building and about its significance. Anyone?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, I think. It's indeed somewhere between Haarlem and Amsterdam, somewhere in the middle. But it's one of the older and well-known factories in the Netherlands. And as Werner indicated, previously it was a factory, but nowadays it's more event location for underground parties, etc. But also for more mainstream things like hackathons. I've been there for a hackathon once, so yeah, you can do some cool stuff over there.
I thought you'll say mainstream like reInvent, but you know.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
All right, David, Las Vegas sometime. But,
yeah.
I like that sound of like gaming and stuff like that. I was like, yeah, let's dream hack it. So I'm David Webster. Yes, I'm from South Africa, and I've been in Netherlands, this great country of Netherlands, for a year and a half. I'm the AWS technical practice lead at Schuberg Phyllis. It's a pretty weird thing. You can Google it. It's kind of hard to figure out what it actually is, but I love everything AWS. And I actually recently got the 13th AWS certs as a shameless plug for myself. So yes, that's pretty much me.
Yeah, no, that is very impressive, David. Congratulations on that. Serkan, why don't you go next? You were here last time as well.
Yes, I hope my microphone works, as I didn't have a chance to test. Perfect. My name is Serkan Çopkan. I am a solutions architect at Cloud to Techno Solutions. We help our customers to use any AWS technology they need. Yeah, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Fabian?
Hi, I'm Fabian Met. I'm the CTO over at fullstack.com. I'm one of the original founders. Just a big nerd, really. I help customers do all kinds of cloud native stuff, and I could go on about that, but really I'm just enthusiastic about cool tech.
Aren't we all, Fabian? Aren't we all? Jeroen, you're up.
Yes, so Jeroen Jacobs, working for 3 years now for Oblivion Cloud Control, and also part of the organizing group of the AWS User Group Netherlands. I'm based in Belgium, actually. That's where I live, but working mainly for companies in the Netherlands. And I think in this committee, I'm the more business-oriented person, at least not that technical as all the others, I expect. So it will be challenging to say something cool about it, or to say something wise about this keynote.
I'm going to put you on the spot, don't worry. All right, and Chris, my wonderful colleague. Before that, Chris, since you were drinking your beer, I'm compelled to.
Oh, you've got one too. Nice. Yeah. Cheers, mate.
This is from Alcher Brewing Company, which I really like. So cheers.
Cheers. Well, I'm in Munich, so I've got a lovely Munich beer. Nice to meet you, everybody. My name's Chris. I am an American Australian. I've been in Sydney for 20 years. I worked at AWS in Sydney as a solutions architect manager. And 3 months ago, I moved to Munich in the middle of a pandemic to join Sohan and the DevRel team based here in Munich. I give talks. I'm an old school blogger, but my hands-on professional development days are a long way behind me. Nowadays, I do it for fun. So I'm with you. I'm a manager. I'm the M word.
All right, folks. So first things first, what did everyone think of the keynote? Very different. I just love the vibe, no 400 slides behind. Anyone wants to go? This is an open discussion.
I think that the venue choice, I was just going to say, the one really awesome part I thought about the venue choice is that it made it that we didn't care that it wasn't live. Like, clearly he'd recorded it, but nobody cared because it was such a cool, visually different thing. So I really like that aspect.
Yeah, and I think it's also cool that he makes the bridge to business all the time. So use the area where he was as metaphor, and also relates everything, every announcement at the end to true business value.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk maybe about some of the announcements. The big one was Cloud Shell. I'm sure all of you all already have access, so check it out. Angelo, Ricardo, do you want to maybe talk a bit about Cloud Shell? What are your thoughts, perhaps?
Well, what I'm actually I want to change the question around, and I'm curious on what kind of use cases people see with Cloud Shell. To be honest, on the environment where I'm currently part of, I don't think, for example, in the blog it says something about that it allows you to do a quick change in production, but yeah, that's not what I feel comfortable with. So I'm curious what if anybody sees any cool or good use cases for Cloud Shell.
Yeah, so if you look at our larger enterprise customers, they always struggle with the same issue that, well, they join a cloud team with their regular laptops, and they have Windows installed, but they are non-administrator. And the first thing we do is we talk about APIs and infrastructure as code, and you should just simply run this command, etc. But they always fail to do that because they don't have access, and if they have access, they don't have direct internet connection because they have to use some explicit proxy somewhere. So it's always a struggle to get them running it at the first day. And with Cloud Shell, I think they can simply open the browser and get started, and then get things sorted on their own laptops.
Yeah, the nice thing is that you don't need to set up the CLI, so you can have directly everything already set up, and a lot of different tools I tested before during the keynote. I tested the Git, I tested the AWS CLI, so there is already a lot of tool, and you just need to connect on the AWS console, and you have everything already. So this is honestly, it's one of the most exciting release and announcement for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be also interesting to see if I could connect it with Visual Studio Code, so I can, because when I joined quite recently at the CCOA here, I got a Windows laptop, so I'm used to a Mac before, but it's just a temporary laptop. But I recall what Stein was just talking about the efforts in getting the environment set up. I been through that pain. If I could hook it up with Visual Studio Code, then I would be really happy.
Well, Visual Studio Code already supports some remote work, so I'm pretty sure some very smart people will be able to work something like that out. I think if we look at the way that we're doing IT more and more nowadays, is we're normalizing things. We're normalizing things in containers, we're normalizing things in functions, and now we're normalizing the workstation. So I'm all for it.
Yep. And speaking of that, I think the big one towards the end of the talk, which had a lot of build up, I must admit, was the managed service for Grafana and Prometheus. I was like, get to it. What is this? But I think it was worth it. I'm sure a lot of you all work on monitoring observability and things like that. Anyone wants to chime in? David, perhaps.
I mean, I think he said monitoring is not equal to observability in his presentation. So, I don't know. Look, I mean, I'm not really a Kubernetes guy. I hate playing with Prometheus. I'd rather I don't know, do something else, play with Lambda. But I think it was pretty interesting, like the X-ray stuff and like tracing the IDs and stuff. I mean, it's probably looking at tons of well-architected reviews. The thing that people always forget is like X-ray, you know, like really, are we really instrumenting our services here, the application code? But yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of all of this stuff that I've seen AWS do this year is more actually like, okay, we have a lot of these services. How are we kind of putting this abstraction on top of it to kind of, you know, maybe simplify it for users, again, kill a lot of code that people have custom written. You know, for me, like that app, there's a lot of system manager stuff that's been released. And one of the things that was, I can't remember the name of it, was that fault service for chaos.
AWS Fault Injection Manager.
Yes. So
FIS.
That's
I've taken no notes.
I followed Adrian Hornsby for a lot, right? You know, this guy, he did a lot of chaos document stuff. I got obsessed with it. I started writing a ton of my own chaos documents in SSM and stuff. And now, boom, this awesome service. So I think, you know, I mean, I really love it. I mean, for me as an AWS guy inside who loves AWS, who obviously has spent his life for it, you know, it's like awesome. I feel actually inside like we're headed in the right direction. It's making my life easier to get to that like problem quicker. So awesome. So that's how I feel about the monitoring and observability. It follows the same theme. You know, it's just making it easier so that the whole kind of chain of your application is better, more well secured, all of that good stuff.
Yep. And Chris, I'm going to ask you about Fault Injection Manager and your thoughts about that. But we have a comment from Jeroen van der Leyen who says, Ricardo, Systems Manager, Change Manager. The naming maybe I'm not sure about, but addresses the concern that Ricardo did refer to. Yeah. So you're right. And folks watching, if you have any questions, comments, please keep those coming. We'd be happy to take them. Anyway, back to you, Chris. So yeah, David was just mentioning Fault Injection Manager, you know, to manage your chaos engineering. And like David said, Adrian Hornsby's been speaking a lot about it. Thoughts on it?
Well, it's funny because the thing I thought of when I was like, oh, finally, yes, I get it now. Because I think people think that if you work for AWS, you know about all this stuff ahead of time. We don't. We totally don't. And so I'd kind of heard rumors, but you never know if that's true or not. And similarly, you know, we just announced recently a new region in Melbourne in Australia. And for ages, there were rumors, but you never know when they're going to say it. So I was very excited when he got to talking about chaos. As soon as he said chaos engineering, I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's really happening. So yeah, it looks really interesting. I think people are going to get very excited about that. I pulled up the blog post. I don't know much more about it than anybody else. I know Adrian was immediately all over Twitter because he's been working on it for so long. So I'm it's a great day for the team. It seems to have landed with a lot of impact, this particular release, or pre-announcement of a pre-release.
I've actually always wondered that thing that you just brought up there about like if like you knew about like the service. I've always wondered.
No. Unless you're working on it or you're like customers involved in betaing it or something. Like in the solutions architect org, you'd occasionally have, you know, because that's a big part of what SAs do. And I'm sure people listening who have an AWS account, you have a solutions architect and they're great at giving feedback for services because sometimes it's a bug or it's a feature that you really need. And the great thing is if you tell them that you really want something and then it turns out that we're building it, you might get access to help make that service better. And so that's when you might get to know. But for the most of us, and Sohan knows this, like we don't have any access to the roadmap. It's on a strictly need to know basis. Everything's under code names. That's the other thing. So, you know, we've been doing all these live deep dives, the developer advocates with code names. And so I know people are doing code names. I don't know what they refer to. The one I did had like this really cool code name. And then it was the new UI for Amplify. And I was like, oh man, like, that code name was so much cooler than that. It's a great feature, but like, yeah, our code names always make things sound really impressive, regardless.
Code name Rattlesnake.
Exactly.
Yeah. I have like 3 deep dive sessions. All of them have like cool names, but most of them are about marketplace, which are like super technical, like affects business for sure, but like super technical, you know. Anyway, anyone else worked on chaos engineering here, excited about fault injection manager? Serkan, Fabian, Stain, one of you, anyone?
I'm wondering how accessible it's going to be, how easy it is to go to get started and get some failures tested. And I'm wondering if it's able to successfully make an entire AZ fail properly. So not with a clean cutoff like you always do in your tests, but with an actual failure where it gradually becomes worse. I'm hoping maybe it should be doing something like that, because that would be awesome.
Yeah, I had the same questions actually. Hearing the new product is super cool, but I'm really curious about the functionalities on the networking level, on the specific product level, and also on the performance level. Can we have like some performance degradation on some services? Then actually it may trigger some of the problems. I'm really curious about.
The other thing I would recommend is reach out to your solutions architect and see if you can get whitelisted for it early when it goes into preview. You might be able to help shape how it. I don't know how finalized it is, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could actually simulate a lot of that stuff with like your run documents in SSM originally. But now another service that I see kind of similarly connected to this one is that VPC analyzer. It kind of gives you that like extra ability to like kind of see this magic now. I was wondering in the back of my head if something hadn't happened at Amazon data centers where they like developed some new cool thing that they rolled out to all of their servers, which gave them a little bit of extra control over those like network or something. I mean, this is a complete guess, right? But I was wondering because it's like, you know, VPC analyzer and this chaos document kind of concept, very similar, but who knows?
Yeah.
Not us.
So speaking of chaos, today was actually game day, and I had taken part in another game day earlier, like as a preparatory thing.
Do you really want to talk about this, Sohan? Do you really want to admit to this?
I'm going to admit something even sillier, actually. So basically, the team of AWS advocates did terribly in game day, and I was part of it. It explains a lot. Yeah. And Chris was like bantering and making fun of us on the stream, which, Chris, I need to get back at you for that one. But in some of the game days, they actually throw chaos into, you know, what you're running and things fail. And I was doing this game day, and something happened in a Lambda function, and like our console.logs were misspelled, which were crashing everything. So I pinged my team saying, dude, what sort of chaos is this? And then someone in my team like, oh shit, sorry, that was me. And, you know, that was really embarrassing. And I'm like, yeah, sorry about that, you know. Anyway, speaking of, yeah, it happened. Yeah.
So I can ask a question in behalf of you. I was actually curious what everybody thinks about the announcements and number of announcements, because I have an opinion about my personal experience, but I would like to keep it for a second. I'm curious about whether you guys think that it was perfect, there were lots of announcements, or whether it was more than announcements and some other things are more interesting. What do you guys think?
I think Werner's keynote is more about sending a message rather than the announcement of services. I think if you look at Andy's keynote, it's more throwing announcement at us, and Werner was just basically telling the message again: go and build, but also make sure you build something which is measurable, which has metrics, which is controllable, etc. So I would say different purpose.
Yeah. So if you can allow me to get a little like high level here, I think with tech, right, it always goes in cycles. If you look at consumer technology and like the phone, for example, the last 4 or 5 WWDCs or Google I/Os haven't had anything groundbreaking, right? It's just better cameras, slightly better batteries, slightly better this. I think the same waves follow in like cloud computing and things, right? Like 3 years ago, we had Lambda and everyone was like, whoa, but now everything is getting slightly better. We're in that phase. And, you know, maybe 2 years from now, you start getting those newer improvements again, which really change paradigms in computing again. So I really think it goes in those waves, which is what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, maybe there were also some other priorities the last year due to COVID, for example, like stability of the platform, availability of the platform, the scalability, and well, obviously there weren't any outages as far as I know, or at least not that well, not that big. That's not sure what I'm saying, but I can imagine that has impact as well for the increase in demand for a company like Amazon as well to shuffle in priorities and focus maybe on features that are contributing directly to this.
So there's one thing I took away from Werner's keynote that we haven't talked about yet, but everybody that I know that's using AWS is using S3. And everybody thinks simple. And then you hear everything behind it and you realize again, wait a minute, this is actually a really, really complicated problem to solve while keeping that service running and still working on it. I found that was really interesting to hear about.
I loved formal logic at university. That was like my favorite subject in computer science. I wanted to be called Dr. Logic. That was going to be my evil villain name. So, I mean, like when you brought that stuff up, my ears pinged. I was like, oh yeah, let's go into it, man. It was super interesting to hear that they're applying like formal verification to actually figure out consistency for these objects underneath the hood. I was like, what? You know, it's like, yeah, it's huge. I would completely agree with you, Fabian. I mean, to me, actually, out of this whole like event, like having S3 as consistent storage, like I think so many companies are going to be like, oh my God, how are we using S3? And it's almost like Amazon now is one step away from being like S3 is a database. A super simple one, you know, like I don't know where it's going to go, but it's like it's feeling, that's what I meant. Like it's feeling like stuff is getting easier. Like SageMaker Studio, not many people used it. There were also a ton of announcements for SageMaker Studio. Well, I mean, when I say not many people used it, I mean like in comparison to like Google Colab, right? So it's like you can definitely see this AWS, like the maturity in some of their tool sets coming around. And then like this other thing of like just S3 consistency. This is madness, you know? I mean, like honestly, I never would have expected that. Definitely.
There are already some projects like Thanos and Loki version 2 that actually use S3 as sort of a database. It stores its chunks in the S3.
I'm gonna.
But yeah, that
really
was
cool.
That was a huge announcement, and it didn't make a keynote really. Like it wasn't. It was sort of slipped out there, and everybody's like, "Wait, what?" And Twitter kind of was like, "Are you kidding? We didn't think this was ever going to be possible." And I guess I don't know. I'm surprised we didn't make a bigger noise about it in a keynote because it's pretty remarkable.
It is, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think it was brought up in all three keynotes though. Like each person, like Andy, Vanna, and like Shawmy were like, yeah, no, hey, S3 is amazing, right? So,
but people just take it for granted now. You just kind of knew, yeah.
Like,
yeah, that was my point.
One of the first services at Amazon, right? I think like S3 was
second,
one of the
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think
like,
so.
Officially, yeah, after SQS.
Actually, I was also coming to this point. That's why also I opened up this question a bit. It's simplicity and also his overall message. Listening and taking notes. What I noticed, for example, listening very detailed reasoning methods and formal verification and how they develop S3 and how they improve the S3, and also about quantum computing. I mean, he knows that not everybody customer level or their day-to-day job. I mean, we are not that interested in the technical details, but actually what he also said at the end is they make things very simple for us. I mean, for example, democratizing quantum computing. If you want to use it now, you can really use it. You need it or not, that's a different question. But if you really need it, you can use it. And similar for example, consistent data storage. And they solve, and actually he was saying literally, what if we solve this problem also for customers? So they solved it for us, and now it's granted, now we use it. And overall, all the all these feedbacks, and also, for example, talk from the Becky Weiss. I mean, for me, it was super amazing to get into someone's brain in AWS in a key position and understand how they approach. Actually, we listen it also to implement to our projects, to our customers, to our clients. For me, it was incredibly actually satisfying talk. personally, I should admit that I started listening it with some pen, and I was ready to hear the announcements. And then I actually noticed that, yeah, it was also similar last year. Actually, we heard high level or low level informations from the AWS, from the CTO, and it was very inspiring. Last year, I had lots of small notes, and I was using it during the year. And for me, I was not expecting. I just forgot, but it was really similar. I'm really satisfied actually with talk.
I'm glad you mentioned Becky Weiss. I think I also noticed that he started off his keynote with a woman founder speaking about women's health, had a couple of other women founders speak up. I think all the people he got were women founders. I mean, which I think is phenomenal for, for the fact that he actually just went ahead and did it. So yeah, awesome. Love it.
The AIML keynote had heaps of women too. Like it's nice. I have to just say, it's really nice to see. Yeah.
And on the side, we're just having a chat saying next year's reInvent, or maybe even this year, we're going to keep a live camera on David and his reaction to like every announcement. So that's good. Like a second.
We said quantum computing, and you did that. What is that? Say quantum computing, and then do that. Why?
I mean, I think it's I'm really in love with like some of these techs. I've been playing around with like GANs a lot. And then when it comes to the quantum stuff, obviously AWS has also released a couple more things now this recently. I think they have like a 50 qubit quantum machine now. They have like the D-Wave quantum annealing. So you can do like the 2 different methods if you want. So, and then there's even like they've released like 6 experiments. So you can actually start playing with quantum stuff. Why I lose my mind with it is because like I've read quantum stuff and it's like that to me, I'm like, no ways, this is insane. This is madness, right? But then you're playing with the machine that's doing it and you're like, my brain's like it's like solving like the traveling salesman problem because it can do lowest optimization, right? And you're like, poof. So it's like, for me, I think what Werner ended on it, he was saying, quantum is only going to become more prevalent. Shor's algorithm, KMS now has quantum protection. I think it's definitely something we're going to have to start paying attention to in security. And then obviously with everything else, it's just awesome. I think it's going to change the world. I have this feeling that, like when you're driving or you're cycling on a bicycle in the Netherlands and you go to like a 4-way stop, there's no one there. But then as you get there, there's tons of people. I'm sure that's someone just turning on a quantum machine or something, causing some crazy effect to happen. But yeah.
Or you just went to a coffee shop, David.
Or maybe that.
All right, folks. Yeah, maybe that. So this is actually, I think, our last community meet for the year, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken, I think it is. So I thought maybe we'll ask each of you all what you're looking forward to most in 2021, after all the announcements in reInvent and leading up to reInvent. So Angelo, we'll start with you before we wind down.
Yeah, well, I didn't have the possibility to follow all the sessions, so I have to watch a lot of sessions. But I think I want to concentrate to see what are the most valuable for me announcement. One of these actually was, for example, I don't remember now the name. The one regarding the Prometheus and Grafana, because
for Prometheus,
it's nice to say that this morning I was working to deploy a new Prometheus on our AKS, and I was struggling with the chart that is ridiculously huge. So there is a lot of parameters you have to configure. And so with this announcement, for me, they came out with this. So I think that, and with a managed service, it would be very easy to install and have something to trace and monitor in because it's managed by AWS. So you don't need to take care about a lot of things. So for me, in the 2021, I will focus more on these new services.
Nice. Yop, who's a colleague from AWS, says reInvent 2021. Yop, I really need a break after 3 weeks of reInvent, so I'm looking forward to the break first. Steen, why don't you go next?
I think Joop is completely right. So I hope that we can have this conversation in Las Vegas next year, in a nice bar instead of at the attic here. But yeah, we have beers here. But at the other hand, I do get a lot of energy, especially after Werner's talk about implementing all the new stuff, and I would really like to get an understanding of all the new features that are announced. And I would also like to actually build things, not building new data center-like environments on AWS, but real cool, new, innovative stuff. That's what I'm hoping to do in.
Yeah. Well said, well said. Jeroen says not 3 weeks in Vegas. Yes, I agree, Jeroen. I think 1 week in Vegas is more than enough. Ricardo, why don't you go next?
Yeah, so I'm working a lot with the Cloud Development Kit, so the CDK. So I'm closely following that evolution there. I'm really curious on what's happening on that level, because it's going pretty fast, the development. So there's some challenges still, but I really like that way of developing cloud infrastructure and services with the CDK.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, well, it's something I tell a lot of my dev friends actually don't know about CDK and infrastructure as code, but they're like really good programmers, and I tell them, hey, this exists, and they're like, what, really? So yeah, for sure. CloudNation_NL says, could be nice if they schedule some time in between. Working remote nowadays pretty okay. Yes, we agree. David, a lot of plans. You have run out of certifications to write in 2021. So what are you looking forward to the most?
So it's like a really good question to actually ask, like, what's next? No, like, I mean, with Schuberg, you know, there's like a pretty huge AWS program that we've got going there. And obviously I care deeply about our customers and about the patterns we use. I'm constantly chasing excellence. So I'm going to, hopefully we can apply as much new stuff as come out that we can. You know, I definitely hope coronavirus and reInvent happens. That would be awesome. And I mean, for myself personally, it's like internally, I feel this really huge energy, like from the AWS stuff that I'm getting. I'm feeling like, oh my God, like what can't be done? You know, like it feels like it's the hinge of just what's the next idea. Is it like, you know, how can I take all of this crazy stuff and set it up in 2 seconds on AWS and actually do something cool with it? You know, making money is cool, but maybe doing something to help people would be slightly better for me.
Well said. Serkan, you're up next.
Well, New Year, of course, health to everybody, but professionally, I really want to be in Vegas last year. I'm not really happy with the reInvent. In my opinion, it was not reInvent, but some announcements and online events and everything. I'm happy that I will be able to follow lots of videos during the vacation season. But yeah, I don't want to be in a real reInvent last year again. But besides from that, there are lots of EKS and containerization related announcements. I'm really looking for a time on my calendar to start playing with it. And one practical thing, the Aurora serverless, I'm really waiting for it. And most probably, I'm going to move lots of my clients to Aurora serverless version 2. Practically, that's really something I'm waiting, including the node group and improvements. Maybe too much technical, but they are really practical things I'm going to start implementing very soon. One thing I'm really happy with reInvent is the AWS CNCF actually contribution and new announcements and new groups. They recently joined GitOps working group or something. I'm really happy that AWS is working more and more with the CNCF as an open source enthusiastic. But yeah, lots of things to try, lots of things to play with. It's always time of the year.
Yep. Thanks. Yeah, so I'm surprised no one said swag at reInvent yet, because I used to look forward to that quite a bit. Anyway, Fabian, you're up.
So I'm wondering how the container-based announcements are going to evolve in the next year. So it's always an adoption period where companies are starting with them. There's going to come feedback. The services are going to improve, and I'm wondering what that let's say, step 1.5 is. So 1 being the release and 0.5 being the first steps of improvement, because that's the point when you see most people willing to try it out and willing to start using it. And I'm looking forward to that, because that means that it opens it up as an opportunity.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Jeroen?
Yeah, I think, well, in general, what we see is that COVID is hitting the economy hard, but also forces a lot of companies to think differently, and forces companies to innovate. And I think that's where AWS jumps in, or is at the right place. So we really see increase in all kind of new initiatives on the AWS platform. Companies adopting new business models, engaging differently with clients, and I think that's one of the only few positive things about the COVID stuff. It's that it drives the innovation, and that's something I really like to follow up as well next year with all the clients. And I think AWS is very helpful in it with all kind of funding programs that are available. So the Migration Acceleration Program, for example, but also funding for proof of concept. So I'm really looking forward to help companies as an AWS partner with those new initiatives and make them stronger after this crisis.
Yep. Yeah, well said, Jeroen. And lastly, Chris, before we wind down, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, you guys talked a lot about cool new tech, which of course we're all geeks. We'll all want to play with that. But for me, the interesting thing will be seeing about what from this weird year changes how we go forward, you know, from people working at home to just lessons learned. And actually, I want to give a plug. I want to give a plug for my favorite talk from reInvent this year so far, which is not about a cool new technology. It was a war story from Blackboard, who do like online classrooms and stuff. And I just happened to catch this one last week. You should all watch it on demand. But their traffic ramped up from March 10x, 50x, 90x as schools went online. And it's just, here's, we saw this was happening. We realized it was going to hit us. Here's what we did. And it was just a really great war story, well told. And I think there's a lot of those from this year. And I think I'm really interested in seeing how we put those lessons into place. I'm interested in seeing all of us who are working remote, how much of that continues. You know, I miss people. I miss getting together with my team. Sohan and I haven't been in the same room in years. So it'd be nice to get together and have a beer in person. But yeah, I mean, we announced last week, Amazon announced we're going to train like 29 million people to work in the cloud over the next 4 or 5 years. Like, I think this year is going to change stuff. And yes, there will always be new tech, but I'm interested in sort of the bigger changes that it drives. The sustainability stuff that we announced the other day was really cool as well. So that's going to be awesome.
Yep.
You are now heating Ireland with your data centers.
Yeah, well, a lot of exciting times for sure. Anyway, on that note, we'd like to close for today. We're definitely excited for 2021. So from all of us here, from Martijn, who is not on screen but is backstage, and from myself, happy holidays, stay safe, and we'll see you next year. Bye.
Thanks, guys. It was lovely to meet you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.